Sunday for me to have a long sermon, isn't it? Because clocks stop. So I don't know what time it is. Oh, wait. We're finishing up the book of Genesis today because we're not doing a verse-by-verse study of Genesis. You've already seen. We're looking at these concepts of things that started in the book of Genesis. And the last thing we're going to talk about is that promises start in the book of Genesis. Promises are the most unique thing about the Jewish and Christian religions. There are many religions on the earth, and there's always this question of, well, how is Christianity any different than all the other religions? You all worship some big god up in the sky or many gods. You all have rules. And one thing that I can tell you with all certainty, having seen firsthand many of the religions in this world, Christianity is unique in that our God makes promises. You go over to Taiwan and you decide that, you just got a big bag of goodies because you're graduating and everybody's giving you applause because you're graduating, but you realize you haven't actually taken the final test yet. And so you're worried that hopefully you deserve all this applause, so you want to pass that final test. You get on your bicycle and you bicycle to the local temple, and you go to that temple and you pay money and you pray and you throw these they're wooden blocks that tell you yes, no, or maybe. So I want to pass the test. Oh, I want to pass the test. And you throw the blocks and it says no. So you pay more money, you pray some more, and you throw the blocks again and it says no. Oh no. So what do? If you've paid money 4 times and you've thrown the blocks and you've gotten 3 no's and 1 maybe. I'm not making this up, guys. So you get on your bicycle and you go to the next temple until you can find a place where you pay the money, throw the stones, and it says, yes, you'll pass. Then you take your test, and because the gods told you that you would pass, sort of, you didn't study. And then you fail. Are you mad at God? No, because God can do whatever He wants. You just didn't pay enough money, or you didn't go to the right temple, or you just didn't count on a different God being more powerful than the one you prayed to. In the other religions of this world, God or gods cannot actually make promises that they can keep. Because even those religions where there's only one God, time, luck, darkness, chance, all of these things can affect the promises that God makes. Christianity stands and says, no, our God makes promises that not even luck or time can overcome because God is above those things. When you go back to the time of Genesis, when we look at archaeology to the earliest religions of mankind, we see the same thing. They worshiped things like trees and rocks and gods that they made up because they were scared. They didn't know where the lightning comes from. They didn't know where the rain comes from. They didn't have an app on their phone that would tell them it's going to rain Wednesday. And so they were scared of everything. When the sun went down at night, what was certainly going to make sure that the sun came up the next day? Must be the gods. And so in fear, they would consult these gods, and they would find that some gods conflict with each other. The thunderstorm conflicts with the sunlight. Therefore, the sun god and the rain god, they don't like each other. And they can't keep any promises because of that. You all knew this as kids. Mom, can I go swimming? Well, we'll see. She promised I could go swimming. Or, Mom, can I go swimming? Go ask your dad. Dad, can I go swimming? See what your mom says. Oh, they said I can go swimming. And then you get in trouble. So clearly promises have never been made. How many of you broken promises? Yeah, the honest ones are raising their hands. Jesus uniquely keeps promises and says they can't be broken. And the Bible is replete with God keeps His word. It all starts in Genesis, and it's a unique idea in the world. Who is God? It's probably the most powerful question on earth. Who is he? What's he like? What does he want? We say he's all powerful. That means he can literally do anything he wants. And if some wise cracker says to you, can God make a rock so big that he can't move it? Just slap him. You don't need that kind of stress in your life. Of course he can't make a rock so big he can't move it because he's above rocks. He can make rocks that we can't move, but he can do anything, and asking if he can do that is just a stupid question. He's all-knowing. He knows everything. Does he know what number I'm thinking right? Oh, he does? Yeah. He knows. That car wreck you had one day didn't surprise him a bit. He knew you were going to do it. What? He knew that was going to happen. He wasn't surprised. Wait a minute. You're saying he's all-powerful and he knew that I was going to have the car wreck that cost me so much? Yeah. So God wanted me to suffer? Yeah. What? You mean your mother never wanted you to suffer? Study. It's hard. You're not eating till it's finished. Clean your room. But I don't want. Guess what? Suffer. Just a little. And he's all-seeing. When Sandy and I worked with the Navajo Indians on the reservation in Arizona, we found that some of them thought that you could sin indoors because God can't see you. Can't see you when you're inside. He's up in the sky, he's looking down, and if it's dark, that's even better. But we serve a God that sees everything, knows everything, and has the power to do anything. So if that's so, people ask, then why does he allow pain, suffering, and sin? Why does he allow those things to go on? At one point in my life, my mother made sure I cleaned my room. And if I didn't, there was a punishment. But then when I turned 35, she decided that it was no longer appropriate to punish. It was better to let Michael live in the consequences of his own problems. And so she would see the dirty room, because she had a key to my apartment, and she would say, the room is dirty and this is against my will. It's not what I want for Michael, but I can't keep doing it for him. I can't keep pushing him on my own. At some point, he's going to have to wake up and say, I don't want this anymore. What am I going to do about it? And we have a God that has asked us, the church, his believers, to be part of the redemption of the world, part of the solution to the problems. How long are we going to allow ourselves to live in the messy room before we wake up and say, something's got to be done? Mom, would you clean up my room? Dad, would you mow the lawn? Guess what, son? We had you for slave labor. You're going to do some of this. Did God know that Adam and Eve was going to sin when he made them? Yes. That's it. That's the answer. Yes. The book of Ephesians tells us that he knew that they were going to sin and that Jesus, before the world was even made, said, but I'm going to die for them on the cross to redeem them so that we can have these people. Then why would he make the world? What was his purpose? Because he wanted to share love with you. Love is something that cannot be shared with a cell phone, no matter how many of us seem to be trying that these days. You can't share love over YouTube or Skype. You just can't. I've known many long-distance relationships, and a few of them have survived the long distance. Most of them don't. What we need in relationship is face-to-face contact, right? And I mean, look at me when I'm talking to you, Michael. Not just sitting across the table with your own phone. And God wanted a relationship with you, with us. And to do that, he had to set you free. You can't have relationships with programmed machines. You can't have a relationship with a robot that just does whatever you load into it with a punch card or a keyboard. Relationships come from freedom. Steve Smith's not here, so I can pick on him. He put a Facebook page that says, if you love something, set it free. If you're angry at someone and you hate them, let them go. Matter of fact, just set everything free and get a dog. But the sentiment is, if you love something, you set it free, it'll come back to you if the love's returned. If it doesn't come back, then you were just keeping a slave. And God's not interested in slavery with us. He's interested in honest, open, real love. And to do that, He sets us free. To love and be loved by sinners, God must do three things that we should also learn to do if we want to love others. And they all center around this idea of promise. What do those three things look like when we see promises in the book of Genesis? Number one is that we see a God that limits Himself. What would you do if one morning you woke up and you were Superman? No gun could hurt you, no fire could burn you, no bully could put you down. What would you do? What would be the first thing you'd want to go do? Some people say, I'd go save people from destruction. Other people say, I'd go rob a bank. What would you do with that kind of power? The most interesting thing to me about Superman in the comics was not that he was super, it was that he was nice, that he was forgiving. That was kind of interesting because when I see people today with power, I usually see people I don't want to be around. Our nation is dealing with this great argument again about gun ownership. I don't want to get into the right or wrongness of gun ownership. Some of you know I'm a lifelong NRA member and a gunsmith. I have an opinion about guns. But I know as a gun lover, there are some people, I don't want them to have a gun. I mean, let's face it. When the 2-year-old comes out of the back bedroom with the gun that she found under the daddy's pillow, I'd kind of think maybe there'd be a better way to store that gun, right? And there are some adults who are basically 2 years old that I don't want them to have a gun either. Because power in the wrong hands is a terrible thing. And yet when we study history and we look at the religions of this world, many of the gods that people worshiped were 2-year-olds. You ever looked at Greek gods, Greek mythology, Zeus? Man, he was a teenager that I would have locked up and thrown away the key. What a terrible guy. But he was the top of the gods, and he wasn't even the real top. There was another guy above him that he killed to get rid of him. What kind of gods are these? And so here we have Jesus come onto the stage of human history who shows us God's strength through a weakness. He doesn't defend himself. He doesn't fight. He doesn't argue with anger and viciousness. And he lets himself die on a cross. What weakness. The Romans, on the other hand, learning from the Greeks and the Greeks from the Egyptians and all that before them, God, if He is God, can do anything He wants. What a human God this is. Because in humans, we dream about the power to do anything we want, right? Boy, if I could just beat that guy up. Boy, if I could just make that neighbor do what I want them to do. And frankly, if most of us, and myself included, if we had ultimate power like Superman, we'd probably end up misusing it, getting what we want. And so for the Romans, gods were gods, therefore they could do anything they want. If they promise Perseus that they'll help him battle the Medusa, but then they change their mind halfway through the battle and he dies, who cares? They're gods. Who's going to judge them? Who's going to make them do what they said they would do? And the Hebrews came onto the stage of human history and said, no, we serve a God that if He says it, He will do it. And the Greeks and the Romans said, well, that's foolish weakness. What happens if He changes His mind? And the Hebrews said, he doesn't change his mind. Well, I change my mind all the time, and if I was God, I'd do whatever I want. So here's my question. What's more powerful in your mind? You go to the doctor, he says, Michael, you're just a couple of pounds overweight. Why is that funny? Michael, you're just a couple pounds overweight. I need you to lose weight. And I say, I'm a big boy now, and I can eat whatever I want. And I go out and I order the all-you-can-eat dinner at China Buffet, China Chef. I eat whatever I want. I pay for it. I work to pay for it. I'm not borrowing the money. I'm paying for this, and it's mine, and I can do whatever I want. Is that power? Or, Michael, you're a little more than a few pounds overweight. I need you to lose weight. And I say, okay. And I find out that China Chef is having an all-you-can-eat buffet for free today only. And I say, the diet doesn't start tomorrow. It starts today. Which one displays more power? You know the answer to that. You've done that every time you've opened their fridge. It takes power to keep your promises. It takes power to deny yourself. And everything that Jesus teaches you is about denying yourself. Forgive your enemy. Love your neighbor as yourself. In Genesis chapter 3, then the Lord said, look, the human beings have become like us, knowing both good and evil. What if they reach out and take from the tree of life, eat it, and live forever? Do you see the self-limitation in that statement? I can't have them sinning forever. We've got to put a limit on that. Mankind won't limit himself, so God's going to put a limit. The moment you pick up a responsibility, you have agreed to limit yourself. I'll tell you why marriages aren't working in America. It's all about me. I want to feel romantic. I want to feel loved. I don't want to make a promise that I'm going to stay married if things get hard and difficult and I'm not happy anymore. We live in a mobile society where we no longer have people that stay committed to one job for 50 years and get a gold watch. We work for 2 years on average with one job and then move over sometimes to an entirely different career because it's more fun. It makes me more fulfillment. And we've made everything in this world about self-fulfillment. I'm not saying self-fulfillment's bad. What I'm saying is we've taught people that commitment is somehow an old-fashioned notion. There's power. There's power in the person who gets up in the morning and goes to a job that they don't like and does the best job they possibly can because there's a paycheck that's going to take care of a family. That's commitment, and that's power. There's no power in doing whatever you want, but there's power in denying the self and getting the job done. And that starts with a God who limits himself. If he does whatever he wants to do, he says, okay, you're saved if you follow Jesus Christ and you believe in the resurrection. And I say, okay, I believe. And 5 years later he says, no, Michael, I don't like you. You're fat and you smell funny. But I believe in Jesus Christ. He says, yeah, but I'm not applying that to you. I don't feel like it today. Then 5 years down the road, he says, yeah, okay, you can come in. Where's my hope? Where's my chance to go on and feel like that this is all worth it? We have a God that in the beginning of time said to humankind, I will keep my promises even if they hurt me. Even if they cause me difficulty. So that becomes the view of personal power. Yum, 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 yum. Where's my proofreader? Who proofread this? So that because of the view of personal power, so that becomes, oh, God, sorry. The way we view God becomes our own view of our personal power. If we think that once you become a God, you can do whatever you want and there's no rules that can stop you, no law that applies to you, how do you live your life? When I worked in the emergency room, we had a door that said no public entrance, ambulance workers only. And I'd watch people, visitors, walk up to that door, put their hand on the door. I'd watch their eyes, read every word, and then they'd open the door and come right on in. And some of them were honest. They would say, well, that didn't apply to me. I'm here to visit somebody. No, it applies to you especially. If we think that a God can do anything he wants and no rules apply, then when we are feeling very godlike, we figure laws don't apply to us either. Frankly, we are often thinking I can do anything I want. Love demands self-limitation. I can only pick on Colin because he's the youngest person here. You may think at times that your parents were kind of rough on you. You have no idea how rough you've been on them. You've got no clue. Because true love is a self-limitation. I am committing to this person. I'm going to give up my Friday nights. I'm going to give up my extra money. I'm going to give up my happiness so that this person is fed and clothed and educated and taken care of at the cost of my own freedom. And our God makes that pledge to you. To Noah, I will never again flood the earth in anger. To Abraham, let me tell you about the next 500 years. Any of you ever made a plan over the next year? Said, at the beginning of the year, for the next year, I'm going to blah, blah. How many of you have kept a year-long plan? Jesse will tell you, I plan out my sermons 6 to 8 months in advance. How many times have I sent you updates? Change your mind. And God says to Abraham, let me tell you about the next 500 years. And every single thing God promised happened. No matter what we did. God limits himself. We're going to skip the next part because I already said it to you. And we're running out of, time. So how does God use his self-control? And since it's still 6:40, I got plenty of time. God shows his self-control, his love, his promises through communication. One thing that our God is also very unique with is his word. We have a God who communicates in words. In Taiwan, we saw gods that could only say yes, no, or maybe. I said, why don't you just buy a magic 8-ball? It's cheaper. Yes, no, or maybe was all you'd ever get out of him. And we have a God that writes songs and tells stories and makes promises. How do you get your kid to do what you want him to do? Well, you just tell them what to do. How do you get them to do it on their own without being told? You communicate. You educate. You tell stories. When I was a kid, maybe. He will tell you exactly what he wants. I kind of get a little tired as a pastor of hearing people say, I just wish I knew what God wanted me to do. He wrote a book on it. He's already told you what he wants you to do. In Isaiah 55, my thoughts are nothing like your thoughts. Well, then how can I ever figure you out? And my ways are far beyond anything that you can imagine. For just as the heavens are higher than the earth, so my ways are higher than your ways. Well, now how in the world am I ever going to know what God wants if he's so far above me? I've been accused on a few occasions of having sermons that are a little too hard to understand. And I'm not that bright. I'm a human. And if God is so far above us and he knows things we don't, how are we ever going to understand what it is he wants? Well, Genesis 37. One night Joseph had a dream. And when he told his brothers about it, they hated him all the more than they did before. You know, guys, I had a dream that God gave me power over all of you and you all bowed down and worshiped me. He did this on occasion. He reminded them how much cuter he was, how much more his father loved him than they did, and that God had prophesied that Joseph would be something. How did they choose to respond to it? In hatred, in anger, nearly murder. But God was communicating. He was trying to talk. It doesn't always mean that we're going to like what he has to say, because I never can say that I liked everything my parents had to say to me. I was never very happy about what my teachers said to me. But they moved me and they forced me to grow up and they caused me to do new things. God communicates. Sometimes he communicates through dreams. And folks, I still believe he does. That doesn't mean the dream you had last night where you were driving a toaster down the back of an alligator was something that God's going to do. But I do believe that there are sometimes dreams that God uses. He will tell you exactly what he expects and what you should expect. Well, now, how does that have to work with Joseph? He told him what to expect. You read that story, and everything that Joseph dreamed came true. It didn't mean you had to understand exactly what it meant. It meant you had to have faith that there was a plan. Isaiah 55:8 says that if you don't understand God, it's not his fault because he's been telling you. Did you understand as a child when your folks said you couldn't do something? Or you had to do something? Did you understand every bit of their reasoning? No, but you did it because they had belts and wooden spoons. But they told you. And as you matured, you begin to understand. And as you grow, you find yourself saying the same things to your own kids. Communicate, talk, tell people. I have seen so many marriages fall apart because they wouldn't even just tell each other what they thought. Well, it'll make her angry. Well, at least you're talking. Talking in anger in a marriage is a whole lot better than never talking again and going your separate ways. Communicate. God makes every effort to talk to you and tell you, you've got this book. Did you know that most homes in America have 3.5 copies of the Bible in their home? Well, I'm not sure why people buy 0.5 copies, but they got 3.5 copies on average in every home. Less than 2% of Americans say they read it. And those don't claim to read it very often. God's screaming a love letter out to all of us, and we're saying, I got one. What's it say? I don't know. Too easy to get. Somebody will tell me. I'll see a movie. What kind of effort do we take to listen? How much time have you spent listening to what God has said in his communication to you? Let me ask this another way. How much time have you spent on the internet this week? Looking at videos of cats being scared of cucumbers. You know? If you've spent more time watching videos of cats scared of cucumbers on YouTube than you have reading the Bible, don't come crying to me that you don't know what God wants. But you know everything about cucumbers and cats. So when he communicates to me, what should I do? Well, understand that he's faithful. God is faithful. That's what he's trying to show you from the book of Genesis to the book of Revelation, that when he promises, and he will promise, then he will communicate that promise to you fully. And that when he communicates that promise, then he will be faithful. Genesis chapter 12. The Lord had said to Abraham, leave your native country and your relatives and your father's family and get off to the land that I will show you. I will make you a great nation. I will bless you, and I will make you famous. I will bless those that bless you, and I will curse those that curse you. He says to Abraham, nations will come out of you. Your children will number more than the stars of the sky. Leave your country. Leave your relatives. Leave your father's family and go to the land that I will show you. So what does Abraham do? He takes his family, he takes his cousins, he takes his father, and he starts to slowly go to this promised land. You ever tried to take a kid on vacation, a little kid on vacation, you said you can bring one thing? You can have one toy. They come with 6 or 7 bags of toys. The promise was get out of that situation by yourself and go to this place. What happens? He goes to that place and he's got nothing but trouble until his dad dies. And then he's in that place and he's got nothing but trouble until he pushes his relatives away and says, you go live over there. And finally, when all the relatives are gone, it says, then the Lord spoke to him and said, lift up your eyes. As far as you can see that way, as far as you can see that way, or that way, or that way, I'm giving it to you. Take it. But he was so busy listening to the things that he had to hold on to, not letting go of them, that he couldn't hear what God was trying to say to him. God will keep his promises even when we do not. Abraham, I'm still here. I'm still talking. Just waiting for you to listen. This is the nature of what we call covenant. Our God is a covenant keeper. The word covenant in English has sadly become the same thing as contract, and it's not. If you're in a contract with somebody and they break one rule in the contract, what happens to you? You're free. In a contract, if they break one thing, you're free. Covenants are older. They go back to the very beginning of time. Not just from Israel, but the kings of all the world made covenants. And a covenant says this: you will do something, I will do something, and if you break the rules, I will use my power, my fortune, my reputation to bring you back to the covenant. Covenants are promises to sacrifice, to give, to labor so that you will be brought back into a better relationship. This is what love is in marriage, not a contract. I think the government should have no business in marriage. It's a promise. I don't think there are private marriages because the witnesses have something to do with that. Idiot, don't you remember you're married? Oh, yeah. Numbers 23. God is not a man. He does not lie. He is not human. He does not change his mind. Has he spoken and failed to act? Whatever he says, he will hasten it to happen. This is the faithfulness of God. If God is faithful, then we can have, if he's faithful, we can have faith. You can only trust that which is faithful. Jeremiah 1, and the Lord said, that's right. And it means that I am watching, and I will certainly carry out some of my plans. Oh, I'll carry out whatever plans that work. Whichever ones I feel like. No, I will carry out all of my plans. All of them. All of them. Joe, Bob, Harry, whatever your name is, you married this woman, you had kids with her, now you're going to leave because she's not getting your meal done on time? Yeah, I'm just not happy anymore. You made a promise with these kids. Yeah, but they're loud and stinky and sticky. I had plans for my life. What does that have to do with the fact that she had responsibilities with this life? God looks down on us and says, oh my gosh, you people are loud, smelly, and sticky. I had plans for this world that I made with my own voice. God is faithful. He knows what works within his plan. He keeps all of his promises. He forgives all of our sins. He does this for everyone who will be faithful to him. He will not trample on one promise to reach another goal. Young man once said to me, that girl in college, she's going to fall in love and marry me. I said, how do you know that? Because I knew she didn't like him at all. I prayed to God, and he has to answer his prayers. I said, what if she's praying with all of her heart that you go away and stop bothering her? Because I knew that's what she was praying. And he said, nope, my prayer came first. God is not going to trample on one promise to get another promise. This is what's amazing about God. Do you realize how many promises he made and how he has to juggle to make sure they're all fulfilled exactly the way he said them? And so you've gone through a hard day. You've had some difficulties. God, why are you letting me have trouble paying my bills? He says, do you know what kind of things I'm juggling today? The freedoms, not the wars, not the deaths, not the destruction, but the freedoms that I'm allowing people to experience and giving them just enough freedom that they don't destroy everything I've planned. That's love, folks. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of power, and it takes a lot of time. What's more powerful? The God that makes his plan come about with all this freedom in the world, or the God who just says, I'm done with you people, and walks away? And if you believe in a God that says, I'm done with you people, and walks away, what kind of promises are you going to keep in your life? But if you follow a God that juggles everything at his own expense, even the death of his own son on the cross, to make sure all of his promises are fulfilled, then what kind of a promise keeper are you? Promises are the only way that God works out the faith. In Hebrews chapter 13, I will never fail you. I will never abandon you. His promises are the promises we can trust, even when we feel like we can't keep our own promises. That all started from the very beginning, and it will last until the very end. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for all of the promises you've made. Help us to understand in our daily life that it's not that we worship you because you make us happy. It's not that we follow Christ because he gives us good things. We're faithful to you because you are faithful to everything you've promised. And you will sacrifice to make sure that we get what you have promised. Help us to also sacrifice to be a part of your plan to get what you have promised the world through Jesus Christ. We ask this in his name. Amen. Let's stand together. If you've got